Alright, we are back with another pickup. This is a Norco 250cc. I think it's 2001, and it's known for, I guess, a dirt jump bike or free ride bike back in the day. But yeah, let's take a look at it. So yeah, starting from the top, we got these ruffian grips, if you know, lock-on grips. They've definitely seen better days. Pretty worn. Worn in. I actually never seen grips worn in so far. But apparently a hack you can do is take off this old one and then you can slip on like moto ones on if you want to use moto grips. This SRAM X9 9-speed shifter. We got just a generic stem, Merida flat bars, same ruffian grips, lock-on grips here. The stem, probably just a no-name stem, about 50, but we got this cool headlock, the bomb headlock. It's a long bolt that goes all the way through the headset and it clamps everything together to make sure it doesn't get loose. And then here we got the pig headset, pretty cool. I think this was pretty popular back in the day. FSA pig downhill, with downhill bikes, pretty cool. And then got these marzocchi bombers. These are the dirt jump 2s, but yeah, the made in Italy ones. I think these are a bit newer because they have the newer arch here, the magnesium arch, make it a bit lighter. But yeah, I pressed up and down on them. They seem pretty stiff overall, which is good for a dirt jump fork. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. On the front, we just got a Dior here, Dior hub, laced to Alex rims, DM 24 unit width, and then got this igniter 26 by 210 maxes. Tread is not super aggressive, but it's all right for downhill or for off-road. And then here's the frame. Got a cool old van sticker here. Haven't seen that one for a while. Love these graphics, 250cc graphics. Got kind of like the half-tone gradient in there, which is pretty sick. And then streamline cycles. I posted this on Instagram. Someone said they used to work there. But yeah, unfortunately for that guy, I'll be taking that off, sorry. Norco, same kind of gradient going on here. And then the guy said this was kind of an old school chain retention system, but it's kind of missing a bit or something like that, maybe missing the jockey wheel. So see if I can do something with this. Maybe I just leave it off. And then designed in Canada, not sure where it's made, probably made in Taiwan. And then got some SLX cranks on these, 175s I think, 2x. The guy who put these on said they're new. And you can see down here it has actually a BMX bottom bracket, but he converted it with a DMR converter to Holotech 2. So yeah, I'll probably keep it Holotech 2. And then just got a DIY tape job here for the chainstay protector. Take that off, see if there's anything underneath that. Got the SRAM X9 9-speed derailleur, and then got 9-speed cassette. Seems alright. Back wheel is 24 and it's got some blackjacks on there, and this is, I think it's 2.25, and then got some Alex rim DX 2418. So yeah, these are 24 internal width as well. 36 on the back, 36 spoke on the back, and I'm pretty sure 36 on the front too. And then here you got the seat clamp, got the seat post. This is a 30.0 seat post, and I did test it. So it slides in and out. And then just this old school seat, which I'll probably be chucking out straight away. But yeah, that's basically the bike. I guess the one thing I missed was the pedals. Pedals are just these flat pedals. Don't even know what these are, just some probably generic brand ones. This is the other side. Not too much different, just the same type of stuff. Got the rotor on the back, no rotor on the front. And it's got the spy sticker, old school spy sticker. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm pretty hyped on this bike just because I've been wanting to do kind of like a free ride bike up. So I asked online if I should go dual 24s, dual 26s or dual crowns, and I got a few answers, so see how we go. I'm going to take it apart first, take off the forks, give them a service, see how they are, and then I guess we'll go from there. But yeah, pretty hyped. Shoo! So yeah, just taking the bike apart now. The guy I got it off here, he actually was selling like a bunch of other stuff as well, so I was able to get some extra parts off him. He was just selling it super cheap. I should have bought more stuff, but yeah, I kind of had my mind set on spending a certain amount before I went. But yeah, I was pretty hyped with this stuff I got, and he said he used to kind of race this. He used to race mountain bikes back in the day, and he used to race this Norco. So yeah, that's pretty sick. And he was kind of like an avid mountain biker as well. I think if you own a bike like this, you probably, were really into it at one point. Also, if you buy off a mountain bike enthusiast, like 90% of the time, you'll be treated pretty well and will have some pretty nice parts on it as well. You can see this crank was a little bit stuck. I had to tap it out. Usually you should take the chain off first, but yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and you can pop it off with the chain sometimes. And then here, just taking up the chain. Some quick links, like the SRAM ones, if you push them together, they're designed to be able to take off without a tool. Otherwise, you can use the tool or a hammer or something. I have a little tip on that, how to do that. Taking off the SRAM 9 here. I do have a bunch of SRAM parts, and I always wanted to kind of try it, but yeah, I mostly stick with Shimano. I kind of just more used to how Shimano works, but I'm pretty sure one day I'll build maybe a full SRAM bike. I think I mostly use Avid brakes now, so that's owned by SRAM. Here, taking out the seat post. Yeah, this is a 30-point seat post, and I'm glad it came out straight away. It didn't look like there was much grease on it, but yeah, it came out. And yeah, 30.0 seat post seems to be real popular back in the day. I'm not sure why. I have it on my Kona Shoot, my Kona Stinky, and this frame now is 30.0. It's kind of like a rare seat post size for today, and yeah, it can be hard to get, but you can also find shims to get them. Shim from 30.0 to 27.2, which is way more common. Depending on what I do, I'll probably end up getting a shim. Here, taking off the grips, taking off lock-on grips are pretty easy. Just undo them. And then here, taking off the stem. The guy again said, I just chucked the stem and bars on just to make it like rollable or rideable. But yeah, I think maybe he had different parts and I just chucked this stuff on. And then here, taking off the headlock. It's a long bolt, so you got to unscrew it a bit. And yeah, kind of excited to see how the steerer is for the fork. See if there's no surprises, but the steerer actually looks pretty long, so I'm pretty stoked on that. One of the biggest problem is like with finding old forks and stuff, the steerer is cut real short, and then you can't put it on different bikes or whatever. And then here I kind of ran into a problem where the steerer was kind of stuck in there, so I basically tried to tap it out. Yeah, sometimes it can be quite hard taking this out, and you can spray penetrating fluid in there to try to help it. There is a little kind of lock ring in there, or a little compression ring, but yeah, you really just got to tap it out. There's no other way. Yeah, you can see it's super stuck. Here, this is the penetrating oil. It'd be cool if you could like clamp a little bit, but I decided to move it onto the chair, like a wooden chair, where I can tap it a bit harder and have the fork come out, hopefully. Yeah, it finally came out. I was stressing a little bit. I couldn't, yeah. Sometimes when it gets stuck like that, you stress out and hope, it's not a big deal, but yeah, usually you should be able to do it. And there's the bearings. Alright, That's out. I don't know why it was so stuck in there, but it looks like it's pretty greased up on both sides. But yeah, it's out now. Yeah, sometimes it's real strange, like even if it's greased up, its parts still get stuck. Must be just a friction or whatever. But here, taking out the bearings, and you can see it's a little bit worn on the inside, but I'm just going to run it anyway. I think just being a downhill bike, it's going to get a bit of wear. And I'm taking off the little chain guard. I have no idea what this is. I asked around, but it's kind of hard to find what make it is. But yeah, if anyone knows, let me know. I think the guy said it was a brand starting with S, but yeah, I forgot. Here, taking out these cups. Polytech 2 came out pretty easy. Alright, here's the DMR converter, if you don't know what it is. Basically it changes it to a standard BB or Euro BB. And yeah, it just has 2 bolts on each side that go through all the way across. Presses it down basically, clamps it down. Here's the serial on the bottom. It also says like XL on it, which is pretty funny because it definitely feels like a small, but don't know if they came in different sizes or not. Alright, everything is off. Only hard thing was the fork over there, but yeah, everything else came off pretty easy. So just gonna give it a clean now and see how she goes. Service the fork, everything else came off. You can see it's all there. But yeah, pretty stoked. Usually once you get all the parts of the frame, yeah, usually it goes pretty smoothly from there, so always exciting after that happens. But here I'm just basically giving it clean with some detergent and water, just the usual, just trying to get all the kind of gunk off it first, and then I'm going to try to give it a little bit of a T-cut. But you can see, yeah, it's got kind of all the dirt stuck on, and it also had this kind of black, or I don't know what it is, it's like residue, but it was kind of sticky and it was super hard to get off for some reason. I thought it would be just kind of like an easy clean because everything seemed in pretty good condition, but yeah, definitely took a bit of work. Here you can see taking off the tape, and then it has kind of the original Norco chainstay protector on the bottom. Here decided I'm going to start taking off these decals, these streamline cycle decals, just using a little bit of WD-40 again here. And then just because these are on top, I thought it'd be real easy kind of just to kind of scratch off with like a plastic lever or anything. But yeah, that was probably it wasn't a wise choice, because you can see as soon as I did it, some of the clear coat went off with the decal, because I think the decal has been there for really long. So what I'm doing here is just trying to clean it up with a bit of a T-cut. T-cut is kind of like a polish, like liquid sandpaper basically, and has like, I don't know, chemicals and stuff in it to maybe soften it a bit. But yeah, you can kind of see what it's like after I cleaned it up. Yeah, not perfect, but the best I could do. Alright, so I thought I wouldn't have to use heat, but I think I'll have to use heat. You can see when I was scraping this one off, the little one, you can see it kind of stuck to the clear coat. So I kind of took a little bit of the clear coat off. It's not too bad, and I'm glad I did it on the little one first. But yeah, for the other ones, I'm gonna apply some heat and see if that helps. Sometimes when the decals are so old, yeah, they can do that. Yeah, it's so funny. It's such a common thing where if one part is hard to take off on the bike, it ends up being a mission for the rest of the bike, or it's a little foresight into yeah, just what could happen. And it was the same here with taking off the fork. The fork was kind of stuck on for no reason, and then now these decals are kind of super stuck for no reason. Like, you think usually it should be a very simple job just to take off decals, put some heat on it or put some solvent on it, and it should come straight off. But yeah, this was I guess these decals have been stuck on for like 30 years, so it was a mad mission to get them off. You can see I had to kind of like put tons of heat on, and take each little bit off with my fingernail. And then what would happen is every time I take it off, it would flake off and break, so you wouldn't get one big piece to take off, which made it like super hard or super tedious. Alright, so it seems like it basically worked. It didn't really take the clear coat off at all, which is great. So I'm just going to hit it with T-cut, and I feel like it should be good after that. It just has some residue on there, but yeah, slight ghosting, but I should be able to get that off. The only thing to do now is to do the other side. Yeah, what a mission. I'm going to take this off, I think, as well, because I don't think it really suits it. On we go. So yeah, basically on we go. Wasn't easy, but I think, yeah, I definitely wasn't going to keep them on there. So also I took 2 off already, so I decided just to do the rest. But yeah, it took a bit of time for sure for this one. There we go, all off. You can see the residue still on. I end up using this Dissolve It kind of sprayer, which is meant to get rid of goo. It's kind of like Goo Gone, I guess. And then here, taking off the little one, same process. I sped it up a lot. The Spy sticker one ended up being pretty easy compared to the other decals, and then the Norco one too was easy. All right, got all the decals off. Took a little bit. I'm leaving that Vans one on for now. See how we go, but I took off every other one. You can see this is the other side. So yeah, just gotta give it a bit of a T-cut now to get rid of all that residue, and hopefully that's good. Yeah, what a mission, eh? But yeah, sometimes it goes like that, but I find T-cut actually works really well to take residue off as well. So if the Goo Gone or Dissolve It doesn't work for you, you can just put T-cut on and it'll polish it straight off. You just basically apply the T-cut, give it a rub, I guess, and then spray it with water, and then yeah, wipe it until it goes almost goes shiny, or until all the T-cut's off there, and then yeah, just repeat the process. Yeah, I wanted to show you here, this is what the kind of residue looks like. It's just kind of like sticky black residues, almost like if it was gum sap or something like that, but it was kind of all over the frame really, in certain areas, all over the head tube or in the chainstay areas. You can see on top here, it's not quite dirt and it's not quite like grease or oil on top. It's just kind of like something that's stuck on like, yeah, like tree sap. But you can see, yeah, here I'm taking all of it off. It's almost like a layer has formed on top of the bike frame. Maybe it just, yeah, it's like the clear coat melted or something. I don't know, something with the finish of it just made it real sticky. But yeah, I was able to get a lot of it off with just T-cut, and yeah, just following the theme of making it a mission. It was a mission to do as well. But I think, yeah, all in all, it'll all be worth it once I'm done, because I think this frame, yeah, is super sick, and the decals are sick too. And yeah, just one thing with the with T-cut, be careful when you're doing it around the decals, because you don't want to take the decals off. But I think the clear coat on this frame is pretty thick, so it would have been a long time before you could actually rub the decals off. But yeah, always just be careful. Here you can see more of the sticker residue, and then some of the other dirt residue there. Kind of trying to get that off. But yeah, a lot of cleaning for this one for sure. And then yeah, I don't think I even filmed all of it just because there was like so much to do. Every time I do a spot, there'd be another spot I missed. So just a little bit of a time lapse here. Alright, I did it. What a mission. I actually had to clean off tons of stuff. And yeah, it was kind of like that black stuff that was real hard to get off. I need to cut the whole frame basically. But yeah, super clean. You can see this side all done, super fresh. And then here's the other side. Literally could have went days doing it, but I think this is pretty good, pretty clean enough. And yeah, that's done. Alright, here they are, 2002 Marzocchi dirt jumps. These are dirt jumper 2s. I can show you back here. 2 right there, made in Italy. So yeah, I want to give these a clean. Hopefully they're not as dirty as the frame, but this stuff looks pretty gunked on. So we'll give it a clean and then give it a service. You just pop off the ends, should be dual springs, and then put some new oil in, and that should be that. Hopefully cleans up all right. So yeah, just cleaning the forks here. I was super psyched on these forks and this bike. Sometimes you come across a pickup and it has like a few parts that you want already, so it makes it super easy to kind of pull the trigger on the purchase. But yeah, these forks are absolutely amazing. Love like the old graphics, and yeah, just the design of them looks sick, and they're also in pretty good condition. It ended up cleaning up real easy, like way easier than the frame, like 100 times easier than the frame. I could basically just wipe the dirt off, and yeah, super good condition again. And then I just cleaned around the seals here with a little nylon brush. But yeah, after cleaning the frame, this was kind of a breeze. Couldn't believe it. But yeah, sometimes you get lucky with parts like this where yeah, they're in good condition and they clean up easy. So all in all, I probably just need to give it a service, and it should be running fresh. Here I'm going to drain the oil, so just make sure you put a container down, because you don't want fork oil everywhere. It's hard to get out of things, and yeah, you don't want on clothes or whatever. And yeah, basically there's 2 bolts on the bottom. You should just be able to pop them off. I haven't had an issue popping these nuts off, if yeah, knock on wood. But yeah, if they're done on real tight, they can snap, or they were known for snapping, so just be careful when you take them off. Just apply even pressure and do the best you can. And then here, once you pull on the forks, the oil is going to release the air pressure, and all the oil is going to pop out. And you can see the oil coming out is pretty green. So yeah, not super dirty, I don't think. So maybe I didn't have to service them, but yeah, if a bike's been sitting there for a while, you never know. I'd rather just do it, just so I know that the forks will be fresh. And then here, popping these little rubber caps off. I tend to lose these when I'm riding, because I don't know, I think the air pressure, when you ride them a lot, the air pressure pops these caps off. But yeah, if you see them on forks, that means they're either stuck in there or the forks haven't been ridden that hard. And then here, just unwinding the spring pressure. You just unwind them to the top to get rid of some of the pressure on the springs, and then it should make taking off the top cap a little bit easier, so it doesn't spring out at you. And then yeah, just pop those off. That ended up being pretty easy as well. And then there's a little washer in there and a spring in there, so yeah, you just push on the bottom to take those things out, and there we go. That's the spring. Same with the other side. I usually just pop these back into the container, because I'm going to wash these out anyway. But yeah, no rust on the springs or anything, pretty clean. And then once the forks have been drained, I just put them in the wash, or put them in the basin, give them a nice wash, just with water and detergent, nothing too crazy. Since yeah, these are pretty clean, you don't have to use tons of detergent. And then yeah, cleaning the lowers again here. Pretty straightforward on this one. And then if you want to clean the insides, you can use a little piece of dowel and paper towel or whatever else, and you can just push it through. And then here, clean the rest of the stuff, just using my water and detergent spray. It's just a spare bottle with some water, and I just put a few pumps of normal dishwashing detergent in there, and it seems to do the job pretty well. Sometimes I put a little bit of Dove soap in there, but yeah, works pretty well otherwise. And then here, given a nice clean, you can see looking super fresh. Pretty hyped on this. I think these forks are, yeah, just amazing and easy to service too. All the old forks I find real easy to service. And then putting the forks back together, a little bit of, I think this is silicone grease. Oh yeah, silicone grease. I forgot what it was, the brand was called, Slickoleum or something like that. And you just put a little bit on the seals and then a little bit on the end of the stanchions, just where you're gonna put it in, and this should help ease it in there. And also, yeah, protect it a little bit. The reason why it's silicone based lube is so it doesn't wash away. And then yeah, just push it all the way in, and then we're gonna tighten the bolt on the bottom. Again, just remember not to tighten these bolts too tight. I think it's just, can't remember if it's 5 Newton meters or 8 Newton meters. But yeah, you just do it, yeah, tight enough where once you tighten it up, it should just create a seal, and you shouldn't, if it stops tightening, just don't over crank it. It should just be tight enough, kind of similar to a stem bolt. You can see that's kind of the pressure that you need. Probably harder to see, but if you work on bikes a lot, you'll be able to kind of gauge the pressure. If not, you can always use one of those torque wrenches. And then here I'm just measuring what size forks these were. So you can look up on just Google old manuals and stuff, and it tells you how much oil to put in. And I think this was basically 50 millimeters from the top. And I just use a toothpick to gauge. A toothpick's usually like 55 millimeters, so I use it, yeah, to gauge it like that. It makes it pretty simple. I've done it on a few forks already. And then you just pour the oil in, and then you make sure you cycle it a few times to make sure you get rid of air bubbles, and push it back up and re-measure it, and then yeah, it should be good. And then when you're dropping the springs in, be careful not to drop it in too fast, otherwise oil is going to splash out. And then you can slowly push it down after that. And then the weight of oil I'm using, I think it's 7.5 weight. I think some forks run 7.5, some forks run 5. So yeah, just I guess do what you want to do. Obviously, like a higher weight will be a little bit harder to compress. But yeah, you can use whatever you want. Usually I just use 7.5. And then yeah, just tighten these up. Make sure you put the little coin spacer in there as well. And then this is how tight you do these up. Make sure they're nice and snug. Alright, here it is, all done. Super fresh. Honestly, they were in pretty good condition already. Back looks good. But yeah, there they are. All done there. Super sweet. And yeah, time to test them out. We'll just give them a squish on the ground. So yeah, buttery smooth, and they're a little stiffer than the Z ones and also the drop off. So yeah, they would go pretty nice for dirt jumping, I think, but probably nothing compared to a modern fork, probably not stiff enough. But yeah, overall, pretty sick piece of kit. Pretty stoked on them. Alright, so these forks are done, and I've been thinking about the setup for this bike, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save these forks. After pumping them up and down, I think they're still a little soft, I think, or they could run a little soft, so I'm kind of unsure whether I fully want to put them on a dedicated like dirt jump machine. And they're also in quite nice condition, so I'm going to save these for the Kona and yeah, see how that goes. I'll do that in different build back up the grey Kona, and I'm going to run 24s on the rear and then 24s on the front. But you might be asking me, okay, if I'm not using these forks, what forks am I using? So I'm going to chuck on these. Yeah, so these are boxes 2008 boxes. I don't have to service them, so I'm just giving them a clean. I got them off Tom, shout out Tom. He said, I think he serviced them and then did a few rides with them, but that was basically it, and they've been sitting in the shed. But yeah, funny story, I actually picked this up a while ago and I was going to put them on the Kona Stinky, but the issue with it was I had to find a hub because I got 32 hole rims, like mullet style single tracks, and I was going to build that up, put on a Stinky and do that, but it took me forever to find a hub. And what happened was Noah from Community Bike Hub gave me this hub. Shout out Noah. It's a super nice hub and I had this sitting around, but unfortunately it's a 36 hole. So with that, this has kind of been sitting for a while, and then this has been sitting for yeah, a good 6 months, maybe a year, and it's kind of been bugging me. So when I picked this up, I found that this was 36 spoke on the rear, so I'm gonna build a 36 spoke on the front, have matching rims, matching spoke count, just a little crazy. And then I get to use this hub, I get to use these forks, and yeah, everything should be good. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. So I'm gonna clean these up a bit and yeah, clean up the headset and chuck it on, see how it looks. I understand it's gonna put the front end way up, but I think it'll be all right with this aggressive angle. And yeah, here are the boxes. It's just got this old direct mount clamp on there. I'm not sure what brand it is, but it seems pretty sick. And you got different adjustments on the top, so you can go, you know, or closer out. Takes 31.8 clamp. And then these are 2008 boxes, you can see, because it has the logo up the top versus here. Got the motion control. I don't know if I'll keep that sticker on. I've always didn't really like that sticker, so I might take it off. But yeah, you got adjustments on the top here, and then I think it's just a coil on this side, air on this side. Need to double check, but it could be wrong. And then yeah, here it is. Takes 20 by 110, 20 mil axle, 110 width, non-boost, so older style. Came with a little brake mount as well. But yeah, overall pretty good condition. I think there's a few scratches here and there, but yeah, I feel like it'll be good for this bike I'm building up, since I don't have to worry about crashing it so much. Where I think these forks are a bit nicer, so I'll save them for the Kona, where I'll probably do less crazy stuff on it. More of a nice ride. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think the only real damage was there's a section on the stanchions where it was scratched up, but it has been wet sanded and doesn't affect the seals, so yeah, all good. But yeah, I'm super keen to try dual crowns, see if it makes a difference, see how it is. Maybe people say it's like a stiffer at the front end, so yeah, see how it goes. But yeah, just basically giving it a quick clean. Yeah, these were recently serviced, or haven't been too bad, so yeah, just a quick clean overall and should be good. It does have a shorter steerer, so I'm kind of excited to see if it will fit. Alright, that's done. Looking pretty sweet, and time to clean this up. Also got to tap this off too. So yeah, time to clean the headset. I am going to reuse the headset. You can see the Pig headset has a bigger bearing at the bottom to handle kind of extra load, I guess. But yeah, I decided to reuse the headset just because it seemed pretty good condition. I think some of the racing headset, obviously it's a little bit worn, but yeah, it's such a cool headset. I decided to just run it again, and it should be alright. I feel like it shouldn't be too much trouble. Here, just tapping off the crown for the headset crown, and I have this tool where it's just a sharpened aluminum flat piece, and you can just go all the way around and just kind of like tap it off. And what the aluminum is good for is it doesn't scratch anything really, just because the metal is softer. But yeah, it just took a little while. I always think about getting the proper tool for this, but after I tap it off, I forget about it straight away. Yeah, you can see some of the wear here, so some of the chrome is flaking off, so I decided just to give it a little bit of a finish, I guess. I just use a little bit of foil and just kind of run it all the way around, try to get all the flakes off, and just try to smooth it out as best I can. So just doing a little bit of maintenance on this, and yeah, just trying to smooth it out basically. But yeah, I think that's ready to go. And then yeah, now to install the forks. So I had already loosened all the bolts on the crown or the steerer. So yeah, you kind of just loosen them up, and then you can pop off the top. Put a little bit of grease on the steerer here, and then I'm going to drop in the same crown for the headset. And then I got this install tool from Darren, shout out Darren. And yeah, just give it a few taps and it should install. Once the noise changes, then that's when you stop. Yeah, you should be able to hear the difference, and that's nicely installed. Wipe all the grease off, and then here is a little plastic seal to keep all the dust out. And then the bearing sits on this way. The bearing will sit on whichever side spins the smoothest. So if you're unsure, put it on one way, give it a spin. Put it on the other way, give it a spin. If one side would definitely be smoother than the other. And the ball bearing should run under race. So yeah, that's an easy way to work it out if you're unsure. And then basically just grease it up, and then time to chuck it on. I end up greasing the cups as well. I don't think I filmed it, but I just gave the cups a wipe. And then yeah, you can see how short the steerer is, but I'm hoping that it will just fit once I compress everything. And then here, the top bearings go on, the bearing race. Load up with grease again. And then yeah, chuck on the little top cap thing. And then there's a little wedge compression spacer. This was what was stopping the fork from coming out in the first place. And yeah, chuck that on. Make sure you grease up everything so it doesn't rust or doesn't seize up. And then here, just putting a little bit of silicone grease again on the crown, the upper crown. I think it's called an upper crown. And then yeah, just slide everything on. And then I'm using this Bone Shaker mountain bike headset cap. I have two, so I decided to chuck this one on this bike, and then just using a tiny little spacer. And you can see where the steerer was, it ended up fitting pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm super hyped on that it fit. It was only like a millimeter gap from the top, and I think when I compressed it, it probably went all the way. And then yeah, you can see, super nice. I was super stoked at this point that it finally went on and just fit like a perfect fit. Yeah, so it was meant to be for this bike. So yeah, it's all on. Here it is. Everything's clean, fits super well. I'm glad the steerer was long enough, and yeah, it looks, I don't know about you guys, but I think it looks super sick. I'm super hyped right now. Yeah, I think it looks awesome. The BB height is a little bit higher, of course, because I got this massive fork on the front. But yeah, I can probably move the crown down a little bit, depending on what the minimum distance between this here and that is. Yeah, overall, pretty hyped. Shoo! Alright, so all this stuff came. The spokes came and the rim came, and yeah, we're going to build up this wheel. I'm going to use the Ali Clarkson tutorial, how to lace a wheel. And basically what it does is it lets you see the logo through the valve. So we can either do dice or the word dice or roulette. So I think I'm going to go the dice. Pretty cool. And then the rim is DM24 rim. This one's DX24. They're pretty similar. Same shape, same kind of finish, same silver eyelets. Obviously this rim is really hard to find because it's like an older rim. I don't think you can ever get that, but you can order these ones new, both 36 hole. So yeah, kind of matching rims. So yeah, it's becoming quite hard to find matching 24 rims if you don't want to spend a lot of money. So pretty stoked I was able to finally get matching rims for this bike, or match up a single rim. And then with getting the right length spokes, you just basically plug it into a spoke length calculator. I covered it in my monopole video. I built wheels on that, but yeah, basically you just measure your hub, measure your rim, and all those measurements. You just chuck them in, and it'll give you the length of the spoke. If you want to learn about that in more detail, it's in the monopole build video. But yeah, obviously if you're going to build wheels, do a bit of research first before you start building them, and yeah, you should be fine. I recommend the Ali Clarkson wheel building tutorial. Shout out Bike Dad for that. Alright, here it is, all laced up. You can see here's the dice and through the valve hole. Pretty sweet. So yeah, in addition to having the graphic line up through the valve hole, it also gives you enough space for when you're pumping up your tire. So there's gap around the valve. If you see a wheel build or you try to pump up tires where the gap isn't big enough, you'll probably know that, yeah, probably the person building the wheel didn't do that good of a job. But yeah, I like it this way because when you pump up your tire, the valve actually fits in real good. So yeah, basically just tension it up and trued it. Alright, here it is. Wheel all done. Pretty happy with it. Got the big gap for the valve. The valve hole looks down to logo. I tensioned it with the tension meter. And yeah, it's pretty true as well. So now I can build it up. Alright, so I decided to paint the rim black because I'm going to be using disc most likely. And I'm just using exterior house paint. Got a little cap. Got a little brush. You're meant to prime it first before you use it so it sticks on metal, but yeah, I'm just going to put it on. I did on other rims and it seemed to work without the primer, so see how it goes. Put some cardboard underneath there to hold it up. So yeah, I should actually build a proper stand for my wheel building stand, but yeah, just the cardboard's holding up for now. And then when you paint this on, I basically just try to water it down a bit so it goes on a little bit smoother. You can see here I put too much water on, but once you get the right kind of consistency, then it makes it way easier to paint. And then yeah, you just basically just paint it all the way around. Not too much to it, just try to do it smooth and yeah, just as fast as you can so it all dries out even. You can see here it did take a little bit, but yeah, you just basically spin the wheel and put the brush on. Alright, that's all done. It's not perfect, but pretty good. So yeah, now I just gotta do the other side. You can see big difference there. But yeah, it dries matte, so looks pretty good. And then the same thing on the other side. I end up doing 2 coats because I think because I watered it down, the first coat was a little bit translucent, but yeah, you just do as many coats as you need. And then here it is, a little bit close up. You can see it's not 100% perfect. It's also hard to show on camera, but it matches the rim paint, original rim paint really well. So yeah, I love using this. And then chucking the rim tape on and also the tube on. Just like that. And here we go. I end up using these Minions DHF tires on, just what I had at the time. Alright, here's the other wheel. So gonna give this a quick clean before I paint the rim and just give it a spray down. I don't know if I'm gonna use that cassette or the rotor, but yeah, I'll clean it up and chuck a tire on. So yeah, just giving it a spray with this pressure pump from Bunnings. I already had a little bit of water and detergent in there, so just give it a spray, chuck the tire on, paint the rim. Alright, that's done. Painted both sides. Just put it on the stand again and then use the brush, bit of water, make sure it's nice and smooth, or as smooth as you can get it. But yeah, looking sweet. And now this is the super exciting time where I get to chuck the wheels on the frame. I always love doing this part because now you can kind of get a sense of what the bike's going to look like, and also I put a bit of work into it so far, so good to be able to get it together. And yeah, just this is what it looks like. Just a 20mm axle again, quick release on the back. Alright, here it is, looking super beast. I think it looks pretty sick. It's hard to get a good side pick because it doesn't even fit sideways on my balcony, but yeah, super hyped with how it's turning out. I'm going to chuck some bars on, and maybe just like a seat or something, or seat post, just to see how it looks. But yeah, I think it looks pretty sick. Alright, here it is. Yeah, pretty happy with how the wheels turned out. I painted them black, and I think it looks way better than the silver. A little bit like that. But yeah, chuck some bars on. Yeah, sometimes you never know how a bike's gonna turn out like, especially when you spent money and time on on building a new wheel for the front. I was gonna try to get some fatter tires on there, some Duro Razorbacks, I think they're called, 3.0s, but yeah, I decided just to use these tires for now, and was pretty happy with them. Maybe more of a tire upgrade in the future if I don't like these. But yeah, I guess these are 2.4 in the front and 2.3 in the back. These should be lighter anyway. And then yeah, the forks were feeling pretty good as well. I still need to adjust them a bit with the motion control, and also there's like a gate and compression setting at the top, I think. But yeah, I can do that a bit later. And I got rid of that motion control sticker. Thought that was warranted. Alright, we're going to chuck some cranks on today, and cranks we're using are going to be these XT 175. I think 175 will be alright because the BB height is a bit higher. But yeah, we'll see how these go. The rings are pretty, I think the outer one's kind of cooked, and then the inner ones I'm not sure. I think they had like a few chips here and there. But yeah, I'll clean this up, see how it goes. I do have some spare rings, so I need to chuck that on. I can chuck that on. But yeah, I think these are looking pretty good. A little bit of a patina, I guess you call it. So yeah, I ended up getting these off the same guy who I got the frame and stuff on. He basically just sold me XT group for dirt cheap, so couldn't say no to these cranks. I thought these cranks are super sick. I've always kind of wanted to try these as well. Always looking for nice Holotech 2 ones. And yeah, I like them better than the ones that were on there, the SLX, so I'll probably sell off the SLX ones. But yeah, just taking off the rings. And here's a little tool that helps you take off the chain rings if they're super tight. So you just put it on the back, and then you put the Allen key on the front. And what I found out after a bit of experimentation was these didn't take Allen keys. They actually take a T30 Torx bit, which was new for me because I'm so used to working on old bikes. I'm just used to Allen keys, but yeah, this fits a T30, so yeah, just make note of that. And then here, cleaning off the single crank arm. There's also this little plastic thing in the middle. Don't forget about this. Also, when you're tightening up the bolt, you have to make sure it's down as well. Don't have it kind of snap. And then yeah, just some little residue on pieces on the little XT on the front. Had to kind of get that off with WD-40, and then just give it an overall clean. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. Cleaned up pretty nice, I think. A few scratches here and there, of course, but yeah, I don't mind. And then here, just on the other drive arm, giving it a clean as well. And then yeah, just using the same spray, using a little nylon brush and yeah, just brush off all the dirt. Basically what I like to do if I'm cleaning it is just brush off all the dirt before I actually put it in the sink. Sometimes I don't even put it in the sink after I do this, but yeah, you can kind of just clean it up like this. And then yeah, just a little bit of WD-40 ends up getting rid of the rest of the grime off. And then yeah, a little bit of sticky residue on there as well, so try to get that off as best I can. And then these were looking pretty fresh, I think. Looks cool. Putting it back together, you can see this piece. I think it probably doesn't matter which end it goes on, but you just got to make sure it goes through the holes. And then yeah, just tighten them both evenly. Obviously it's not installed yet, so you don't have to worry about it. And then I also gave the little bolts a bit of a clean as well, just like that. And yeah, looking fat, looking fresh. And then now time to put the chain ring on. So I ended up having this spare chain ring. This is a 32 104 BCD, and I'm just going to run the single in the front. However, with the chain ring bolts, they were a little too long, so I ended up having to find some extra spaces to make sure the chain ring bolts would fit. You can buy actually chain ring bolts which are shorter, but I decided just to reuse these because I have about 1 billion of them. And that's that. Alright, so this is the BB that was on there, and usually I remember, depending on your bottom shell bracket, you don't really run that many spaces. So what I need to do is measure this, see how wide it is. And it's a little bit tricky because this bit here comes out, so I can't just get the caliper and put it on. So I'm gonna have to put a ruler in and see how much it is. Alright, so you can see I have it flush on the other side, and it's about 66. So that's probably why the previous person ran the thicker washers. So yeah, it's always good to double check. Alright, so how it works is for 68 BB width, you're meant to have 2.5 spacer on each side. So at the moment there's 2 of them. So what I can do is take out 2, but then because the width of my BB is 66, I'm going to add back 1. So I can take one of these out, or I can try to split the difference. But I think what I'm going to do is take one out and then try to run the chain line a little bit closer to the chain stay. Hopefully that's not too confusing. You'll see when I do it. So I found this. Someone was giving away a bunch of mountain bike stuff and I was able to pick it up, and this was part of it. Shout out Adrian. Appreciate it. This is pretty sick. And I've never used one of these before, but I don't really mess around with them. But I think because I'm going to have just a single non-narrow wide ring, I'm going to put this on just to see if it helps a little bit. But yeah, it's a pretty sick piece of old tech, I think. Give it a clean. So yeah, this is basically called a chain guide or a chain roller, and what it does is it pushes, keeps the chain on. Usually the rollers go near the chain ring once you kind of position it on, and it attaches to the bottom bracket, just friction. These were made basically before narrow wide chain rings came in and before clutch derailleurs. So yeah, just to help the chain from popping off. But yeah, it's Black Spies from Canada, so it should match the top cap, my stem cap that I have, which is also from Canada. Would have been cool to get a Black Spire chain guard as well, but yeah, I think this will do for now. And I basically just cleaned it up, and I'm going to put this 2.5 spacer on the inside so the chain guide doesn't just compress against the DMR converter, the bottom bracket converter. And then here you can see I'm just put it on the outside, so the chain guard is 2.5 millimeters, this spacer is 2.5 millimeters, and then I'll just squeeze that on, or just yeah, basically just wind it on. And then what I'm going to do is just run one 2.5 millimeter spacer on the other side to even it out. And yeah, it just basically just goes on with friction. That's how it goes. So that side's installed, seems pretty solid. And then same with the other side, just grease it up. And yeah, I kind of like to just work the grease in. And then you can see the one 2.5 millimeter space on this side, wind it in. These bottom brackets are pretty cool because it has an arrow telling you which side's tight and which is to loosen. So it makes it real easy. So yeah, that's on, nice and snug. It's a 16 notch tool if you're wondering. And then here putting a little bit of grease on the spindle, and you should just be able to kind of push it through. Just like this. Alright, so that's in. And then on the other side, a little bit of grease here. Not too much. And then just make sure your other arm is aligned. And then this is just friction fit, so you just wind it on until it's nice and tight. It's basically just to put enough pressure so the crank arm is seated. And then what actually holds the crank arm on is these two bolts. And when you do these two bolts, just alternate them side to side to make sure the pressure is even. And I'm sure there's manuals out there to show what Newton meters to tie onto, but yeah, it should be about that. And that's installed. Alright, crank's installed. You can see pretty balanced on each side. That's how it goes. Even though I put the extra spacer on one side, you can still see they're pretty even. But yeah. Oh yeah, also no play, you can see. Make sure there's no play in your cranks. Alright, time to sort out the rear. So I'm going to run the 9 that's on there. I looked at it, seemed pretty decent condition, so I'm just going to take it off, give it a clean. I'm going to change this rotor out. I think I got a Hope one from, and also going to use the old 9-speed chain. Going to give that a clean, drop that into vapor rust, and then I had these from a donation, Tom from 2001. Shout out Tom. Finally gonna use it. So yeah, kind of going a bit old school or mid school with the parts. Let's get it. Yeah, I'm not really a period correct type of person, but if they're all around the kind of same type of age, it makes it pretty nice. But yeah, basically the reason why I'm using it is just because I had it spare and I thought it would suit the bike. Here, just taking off the cassette off. Pretty simple, just use a chain whip and a cassette removal tool. Taking off the chain ring, just use a Torx tool. You may as well give it a clean while it's off. Just the hub, yeah, while it's off. And then here's the Hope rotor. I ended up putting it on straight away without cleaning it first. And then I realized that it's probably way easier to clean it if you take it off. So I took it back off and just use brake cleaner to clean it. Make sure you don't put your fingers on the rotor part because you don't want oils on there. But yeah, cleaned up pretty nice, I think. Looks pretty cool too. Here's what's left of my vapor rust. I don't even know it's going to work, but I just drop it in just a little container, see how it goes. So yeah, the reason why I'm using this 9-speed chain is because I think it's the only one I had spare. I think I had another one, but it was on like a road bike, so decided to keep this one together since the guy had it on already. So just give that a little bit of clean, and then decide to clean out this cassette as well. You can see it was pretty dirty, but for this cassette, some of the non-pin cassette, you can actually take it apart. If you see these little Allen key bolts, these little pins just pop out. You can just unwind them with a 1.5 mil Allen key, and then yeah, the spacer comes out, and then there's a cog spacer. But obviously when you take it apart, you can get out the dirt super easy. And I think this cassette was in pretty good condition, so that's why I'm spending the effort to clean it. Otherwise, yeah, it might not be worth it. But yeah, here you can just use a wire brush or a nylon brush to get rid of all the dirt. You can see it's pretty dirty, and this saves all the dirt from going down the sink when you clean it in the sink. A couple of squirts of detergent, bit of water, and then yeah, just give it a scrub up. Should scrub up pretty nice. I think this was just basically dirt, so it wasn't any issues. I don't think there was any rust on this, so I just did it manual without the vapor rust. And then here, looking pretty good. Give it a little bit of a WD-40 just to get rid of the rest of the residue. And then yeah, time to wipe it up and put it back together. Just give each of them a wipe, and you start stacking them. Try to match up the holes as much as you can. It's never going to line up 100%, but it will make it easier a bit later on when you do try to line it up. And then here you just drop the pins in. You can see I ended to do it one by one, just on one side. And then if you line up where the numbers are, you can kind of line it up in the right way. And then just give it a screw, just like that. And once you have one pinion, it should make it pretty easy to line up the rest. And then you should be able to yeah, kind of like just drop in the other pin or just wiggle it, and it should go all the way through. Yeah, you can see here, ended up being able just to kind of like wiggle it and push it down at the same time, and it went all the way through. And then just screw that on. These are just done finger tight as well. They were like a little bit loose actually when I took it apart, but yeah, just finger tight. And yeah, the cassette is looking super fresh right now, super clean. Pretty stoked with it. And then drop on the last two cogs. And yeah, that's basically it. Nice and fresh, all cleaned up. Here, installing the cassette, you just line up the side where there's a thicker spline, and you just slide it on. Not too much to it. And then put the extra cogs on. It can only really go in one way. And then yeah, wind it up. Yeah, when you're putting the cogs back together, you got to make sure the thicker spline is all lined up. Otherwise it won't go on your free hub. There we go, all done. Super sweet. Basically a brand new cassette. And here, chucking it on the bike. Alright, let's check it out. It's been about 24 hours. Might be something, might be nothing. Alright, so it seemed like it actually worked, so I'm pretty happy with that. I didn't know whether this vapor rust was still working or not, so I'm just going to give this a clean and then can chuck it on the bike. So yeah, obviously not the best condition chain, but I can always get a new chain yeah, when I find I need to, or if this one doesn't work or snaps I can get a new one. But just to get the bike going, I'm gonna run this chain. You have to spray it with WD-40 after, just to help stop it from flash rusting after you use a vapor rust. But yeah, just give it a spray, give it a soak, and then give it a clean, and then yeah, it should be alright. Here, time to clean the derailleur. You can see there's a little spider web home in there, which was funny when I opened the spring, but yeah, it was a little bit hard to get out. I used these seal picks from Boot Bike that Boot Bike sent me. Shout out Boot Bike. Still using them. They've gone pretty good. Good to get the dirt out of hard to reach areas. And then yeah, just cleaning all the jockey wheels. Again, wiping all the dirt off before I chuck them in the sink. And then yeah, just trying to get as much grease and stuff out. You can see there, cleaning it up. and that's already going to sync. Make sure you clean the tray as well. Here, give it a wash, same deal again, just using I got this thicker nylon brush here for this time for this kind of stuff, and you can just use a little bit of dish detergent and just give it a scrub, get all that remaining grease off or dirt off, and then it should be pretty fresh. Here it is, LX. This is a 9-speed derailleur, kind of like an older style, I guess, a little bit more blocky. And then just putting the rings back on, or the jockey wheels back on. Use a little bit of grease for the pivots, and just do these up tight as well. Don't have to be super tight, just make sure they're nice and snug. And I think the silver will match up with some of the other silver parts on the bike as well. This is a long cage. I think I could have used probably a medium cage for this build, but this is what I had, so just going to use this. And then I ended up filing this little rough bit off the end. I don't know if I made it better or worse, but at least it's smooth to touch now, where before it was a bit rough. But I don't know if it actually made it any better or worse. But either way, that's done. And then just installing the remech, just winding it up. Be careful of the B limit screw, make sure it clears that, and then just tying it on. And that's looking pretty sweet as well. Looks like it works. Fits the range as well. You can test the range like this. Just push it, make sure it can reach the largest cog off the cassette. And then here, setting up the limit screws, just make sure the little cog is aligned. And you can see it's a little bit over to the left, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a wind up to make sure it's nice and straight. And then here you can see it sits a little bit over, too close to the wheel. So I'm just going to limit it again, winding it clockwise to bring it in a bit. And that should be perfect. That should be basically pretty good to start off with, and then you can fine tune as you go. But I find doing this before you install the chain makes it way easier, because then the chain is not putting pressure on the derailleur. Here, just putting the chain on and then using quick link to put it together. You can see I also bypassed the little black spy jockey wheel for now. I can always wind it, put that on once I set the gears. Oh, I think I ended up doing it now actually. But I might have taken it off just to do the gears again. But you can see now when I'm spinning it, sometimes the black spy jockey wheel spins, sometimes it doesn't. So I decided I had to fix this too. What I end up doing, just put a little spacer on the inside, just to give it a tiny bit more space. And that seemed to work pretty well. You can see how well it spins now. And then just chuck the chain back on. I ended up moving this in a bit too. Alright, I don't know if you can see it, but this shift in here is quite dirty. And you can actually just take it apart, clean the display to have a fresh display, so that's what I'm going to do. I think most people probably wouldn't worry about this, but I just wanted to start off fresh with kind of like a fresh build, so decided to clean it up. And you can see just a little bit dirty in there, but what we're going to do is just take it off. You just got to wind off these two screws, be careful not to lose them since they're so tiny, and then you kind of wiggle on this and it should help you take the back off. And then be careful when you pull it out, because it's kind of sprung. You can see the little plastic bit came off, and then there's a silver guide or a display thing with a little spring behind it, so just be careful the spring doesn't pop out. You can always pop it back in if it does pop out, but it just kind of sits in like that. And then just give it a little bit of clean on the inside. Just a little bit of wipe down. Make sure you don't lose any parts again. You can see when you push on that silver lever, it makes the little indicator go back and forth. Cleaning the little glass bit here, or the plastic glass. And then this just kind of sits in there, just like that. And then to put it back together, there's this little black plastic thing, and there's a little notch there. And what you want the notch to sit in that little groove right here at the end of the silver thing. Kind of just sits in there. And then you can make sure you can put the whole thing on top. So it goes through those two holes. And then you should be able to just make sure the back is aligned. Be careful of the little fins, make sure they're tucked in. And then you can push it down on both sides. And once that's nice and snug, you can put the screws back on. Just like that. And then when you're putting the display back on, the indicator back on, it just has to match up with the two holes. It should already be, it should already line up if you have your shifter already in the first position with no tension. And then you just, just wind it back on. And then you can see it works. Easy as that. Super clean, fresh display. Wasn't too hard. And that's ready to go. Nice and clean. Just chuck it on here. I don't really know how far to put it in yet because I haven't decided on grips or put the grips on. But yeah, you can just kind of gauge it for now. I'm just installing it now so I can hose it up, or just lace it up so I can set the gears for the derailleur. And then here just cutting some housing. I end up running the housing between the stanchion and the frame. And then you just cut the housing, make sure it's a smooth line, make sure it doesn't bind when you turn the front wheel. And that's basically all you do. Make sure you can file the end, make sure it's nice and smooth. You can also put a little bit of lube on the inside to make it nice and smooth. And then just putting the gear cable in. I end up using the same gear cable, it was long enough. And then just take all the tension out. And here it is, winding it up. You can see it's not shifting up, so what you need to do is you need to put a little bit more tension on the cable. And what you can do is use the barrel adjuster and wind it anti-clockwise to give it a little bit more tension until it jumps up. You can see it's still not jumping up, so a little bit more tension, a couple of turns should do it. And it's jumping on right there. And then what you want to do is just try through all the gears, make sure it's going through each one. Should be pretty smooth, shouldn't be too noisy or anything. And that's that. That's feeling pretty good. You might need to tweak it a little bit depending on how you go up and down. Obviously I did it a few times, I'm just filmed one time for the video. But it's going pretty good. And then now I just put it back on the jockey wheel. I did take it off to align the gears, just to make it a bit easier, or to set the gears. But then once it's on the jockey wheel again, just cycle all the way through to make sure it's shifting, and that way you won't have any problems. I did think the chain line was going to be an issue, but because the jockey wheel pushes out like a slight bit, but it ended up being alright. You can see here I had trouble shifting to the very last gear, so I need to give it just a couple more turns, just one half turn I think. And then there we go, we did it, going smooth. And obviously go up and down and check, but you can see this is a little bit of rapid fire, so I'll be able to drop it all the way down and push it all the way up, no issues. Alright, that's sweet. And now that's done, just trim off the cable and put a little cable end on using the Park Tool cable end from Boot Bike. Shout out Boot Bike again. Has a nice little clamp area on it. Yeah, it's not a necessary tool, but nice to have tool. Makes it look quite neat as well. Alright, it's break time. So I'm gonna chuck on this SLX. It's a right hand lever, but it's for a front, but I'm gonna just put on the back. So what I need is a longer cable, which I got here, just a cheapie. And it was also missing a brake pad, so got a cheapie there. And I got brake mount. I need to find some bolts to put it on, and then I got to give it a bleed as well. So hopefully that won't be too difficult. But yeah, I was going to put dual brakes on, but we'll just go with a single for now, just to make things a bit easier. And then eventually I'll switch it out. You might be thinking, what's the difference between one brake and two brakes? Well, one brake is definitely easier to install because you have to do half the work. And also it's a little bit lighter. I would say running two brakes, obviously you can ride faster because you can be later in the corners and stuff like that. But yeah, one brake isn't too bad. It's still pretty fun. You just gotta look ahead or pick your line a little bit better. Two brakes is also safer in case a brake like gives out or something. But yeah, I'm just running this just because I had this SLX brake hanging about, just a single, and decided to get it going. You'll probably notice that I have a lot of different parts just hanging around that I always want to get going. So yeah, that's basically the reason for this. Here I'm just taking apart the old cable. So yeah, it just comes out as a little bolt in there. Just be careful of oil and stuff popping out, as well as the little black O-ring. There should be one on each side. The other one's on the bolt itself in the caliper. And you can see the pack I got. It comes with replacement ones. And here's the difference between the Shimano and the other one that I got. It just doesn't have the knurling or the little divots in the brake bit. And then yeah, just measuring up the cable here. Decide to actually install the cable before I measure it. And yeah, it just goes in like that. O-ring on each side. I ended up using the same O-rings. And then yeah, you just screw it in. Make sure it's tight enough where it creates a seal. And yeah, that's basically it. I also gave it a clean with some isopropyl alcohol. I think for Shimano mineral oil, it's not corrosive, so it's not too bad. But yeah, if you're using DOT fluid, you definitely need the alcohol to wipe it off. And then here, just installing the brake using the 160 rotor on the back. And then yeah, just flush against the adapter, no washers or anything. And then now that was installed, I can measure the cable properly. Since I'll just be cutting this once and installing the little barb on the end, I need to just make sure it's the right size before I cut it. Don't want to cut it too short, otherwise there'll be a problem. Putting on the lever, and then yeah, just kind of eyeing it. I'm gonna run the hose through the where the steerer and the fork is, same as what I did for the shifter, just to match it up. And then yeah, this is how you install it. Make sure it just goes on like that. Make sure you put that little bolt in, and then this little pin thing goes inside. You can just push it with your hand, but yeah, it ended up being pretty hard, so I used a lever to kind of finish off the end. If you've got strong fingers, you can probably just use your finger. And then yeah, here's the little olive that goes on top, the brass thing. And then you just got to push the cable up into the lever and then screw it on. And what it does is it compresses the little olive and creates a seal. Alright, that's on. Yeah, I did it fairly tight, but people say if you don't do it too tight, otherwise you'll bust it. But yeah, I probably should have put silicone grease in there, but oh well, should be alright. See how it goes. And then it's on at the back, so time to put some fluid in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off the back and just have it hang, just so I don't get oil on the rotor. Here I'm just using some cardboard spacers to stop the pistons from pushing out too much, just like that. Alright, here's all the stuff. Got some brake fluid, hopefully that's enough. I don't know if that's enough. This little cup sits on top like that, and you put it in, put the liquid in, and then this hose with the little needle valve goes on the end of here, and then I'm gonna just draw out all the air, hopefully. Yeah, one thing that's good about Shimano brakes versus Hope brakes is that the mineral oil doesn't corrode, so you don't have to be as careful. But yeah, you basically just screw this on and you fill it up with mineral oil, and then that little pin at the top you can pull out. I'm just pulled it out here just because this hose has no has no oil in there, obviously. But yeah, if you were doing like a proper bleed, you would pour the fluid in first before you pull the little pin out. And then on this end, you just take the little cap off, connect the hose, just friction fit. I think some kits you can get where it's like screw on, but you just undo the little nut and it opens the valve, and then you can extract all the air out. Make sure you have enough mineral oil in the top kind of compartment. Otherwise, you're just going to pull air straight into your system. But yeah, you basically pull it until there's no more air bubbles, and then you close it back off. And then it should be all good at the top. I just press the lever a couple of times, tap the lever, shake the tube, and make sure all the air bubbles are out. You can see I didn't do this little nut tight enough at the lever, and what would happen every time I squeezed the lever, a little oil would pop out. So yeah, I just kept tightening it up. It ended up needing to be pretty tight for the fluid to stop. And then yeah, that's basically it. You can see the pistons came out a little bit, so I'm just basically pushing them back flush with a soft tool. Yeah, just a park handle. You just push it even on both sides, and as you're doing this, fluid is probably going to go somewhere, so it'll probably go back up into the compartment up the top near the handlebar. And then once that's done, this is how you take it out. You put the little pin back in, it's going to create a seal, and then you can pour the fluid back into your bottle. Put the little cap on. Some fluid's going to come out here because you want it to be completely filled. And then yeah, just be ready with the paper towel to wipe it off. But yeah, that's basically it. Nothing too crazy. And then here, putting the brake back on, putting the new pads in. I just have the brake loose and I just squeezed it on top. This brake was missing a kind of screw-in pin, so I end up just using the pin that came with the brake pad. It's just like one of those like paper clip things, and you just bend it out. Alright, so I put the brake on and everything's looking good. I was just about to give it a spin, but then I realized I left this off. So I'm gonna unwind this and chuck it on, but yeah, I don't think I can actually do that because it'll be stuck and I won't be able to do it without cutting it off. So I guess learn from me. Yeah, make sure you put this on. I'll put it on next time I change the brakes. Alright, so I basically just got the bike wheel up here. I'm just hanging off the chair here. So the brakes seem like they work pretty well, but you can see there's like slight scraping, and it's because of these rotors and maybe this brake, but they scrape right here just a tiny bit. But I also don't have that much room on the other side of the brake pad. I don't know if I can actually move it or not. You can see it's quite tight, so I might have to change the rotor, or I might have to file down the brake. I'd rather not file down the brake, but I'll see how I can adjust it and see how it goes. But yeah, at least the brakes are working. So yeah, basically messed around with it for a little bit. and it ended up actually working, which I was quite surprised. So yeah, all good. Don't have to change the router, and I just bend the pin up a little bit with a pair of pliers. I try looking where to get replacement screw-in pins, but I can't find them, so that'll have to do for now. Alright, time to chuck on the grips. I'm going to chuck on these Merit Itsy grips. I have these on my cross cargo bike, and these are, yeah, they feel pretty good. They're pretty soft, and the pattern's pretty cool as well. I just need to give them a trim. They're a little bit long for this one, and they come with bar ends. I'm going to chuck it on too. So yeah, shout out Merit BMX, shout out 15 Distribution. And then here, just sizing the grips up. I basically just went to the line on the handlebar, and then you just cut it off flush. You can trim it a little bit to clean it up if you need to, and then yeah, it ends up being pretty clean, I think. And I'm just spraying water here. Waters usually work for me because I think in Australia it's so hot that it dries out completely, but if it doesn't work for you, you can use isopropyl alcohol as well. And then here, just putting on the bar ends, just squish them in, and that's basically it. Same with the other side. Alright, the grips are on, looking pretty sweet. Just a small detail, but I put the flange on the inside, like a mini flange. So yeah, after I install the cable, you can see the bumper goes right on it, and obviously I didn't want to have this happening, so you can just move these up. These slide up and down. My ones on this one, they're starting to crack, so I just had to be extra careful not to break them, but I just spray a little water inside, and that gives it, makes it move a bit easier. Alright, it's seat time. So pick this up. This is an SDG seat person saddle. It's called I-Beam, but yeah, the saddle's called iSky. Basically, they've simplified it so there's no bolt, or there's only one bolt, and you can adjust it back and forth, makes it lighter. But yeah, it's kind of just like a mid-school seat. I think it's pretty cool. However, I don't like the white on it, so I'm going to try to actually paint it. I have this paint, the same paint that I use for my rims. It's really hard to get out of clothes, so using that logic, I'm going to paint this, and hopefully it works. Obviously I don't know if it's going to work, but yeah, see how it goes, give it a try. My friend said wear black pants. And I just got a shim here. This is 30.0 to 27.2, and then I might switch out the seat collar as well to a black one. But yeah, seat first and see how that goes. So yeah, it's pretty funny. Chris, aka Bike Dad, offered me his seat, like the same seat, but it was in like good condition, and I felt bad for taking it and then painting it. So luckily one popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and I was able to get it. So yeah, won't feel bad painting it, and if it doesn't work, then no big deal. Here I'm just giving it a clean and just trying to get all the dirt off it, but it was pretty clean overall anyway. Alright, so that's clean. Gonna let it completely dry out before I paint it. I feel like that's a good idea. So yeah, once it was all dry, it was time to paint it. I just basically used the same method, just use the same paint and use a little bit of water. You can see I actually at the beginning I used too much water, and it was super I guess like translucent, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to put it on extra thin. As I was painting, I end up going thicker and thicker with the paint, just not so thick that it does lumps, but just so it has good coverage and still smooth. And yeah, just basically just painted up to the line as close as I can, and yeah, I would just cut in a bit later. Once I got to the nose of the saddle, I guess, I don't know, you call it nose, the pointy end of the saddle, I decided to actually take this plastic thing off. You can just unscrew it and it comes off. I've taken it off other saddles as well, other SDG saddles, and then decided to paint the edge here. You can see once again too watery. I always start out too watery, but yeah, it wasn't a big issue though to kind of thicken it up. And then that was done. So yeah, now I started to kind of cut in. Basically there's no real method here. You just, I think the tip is to have the right amount of paint on your brush, like not too little and not too much, and then as you kind of cut in, just kind of slide the paint in and it should do it. If you make a mistake, then you just make a mistake, but sometimes you can wipe it off with water, like a wet cloth and water. But yeah, just do the best you can. And you can see kind of how I went with it. I would say if you didn't film it, it would probably be way easier too, so you get better angles with your brush. But yeah, I ended up being pretty happy with it. I think the job went pretty decent. And then yeah, just trying to paint all those little white bits. Depending on what angle, you always see little white bits show up again. But yeah, just try to cover them best you can. Alright, this is done. I'm gonna just let it dry before I put the cap back on, the little bottom bit. But yeah, it's looking pretty good, I think. We'll see how it dries up. Alright, here it is. I think it's looking pretty good. You can see in the sun right here. Well, it might be hard to see on camera. There's a few spots where it's a bit lighter, so I'm just gonna have to go over it again. But overall pretty good. I had a squish of it. You can see, like, you can press down on it and it flexes. This is vinyl paint, so I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, it's looking like it's gonna hold, but yeah, you never know, I guess. So here I'm just putting a few more extra coats on. Same method as before, just yeah, try to cover all the white. And then just putting the little cap back on. Same method, just screw it on. Just screw it on tight, not overly tight. I think these screws just screw into plastic, so it's not like threaded or anything. There we go. That's all done. Looking pretty sweet, I think. You can see what the paint looks like. It's kind of matte, kind of shiny, probably called like satin, I think, or something like that. And then here, just installing the bike seat, putting some copper grease on the shim. I also put a bit on the inside as well. Shout out Boot Bike for the paste. A little bit on the top of the seat tube so I can get the quick release clamp on there so it doesn't rust on anything. This is a chrome mag one. It's actually off my other Kona, but yeah, we'll sort it out later. And then here, just pushing the shim in. All you have to do is just make sure the little line lines up with the little cutout of the seat post, and then here putting copper paste on the seat post as well. Make sure you grease up those seat posts. You know what happens if you don't. And then I had to actually hold the shim into position while I put the seat post in. Sometimes it can slide around. And then that went in pretty sweet. And then yeah, just give it a bit of a clean up. This copper paste works really well. It always stays on. And yes, doesn't smell crazy bad or anything like that. And then yeah, installing the seat here. I think yeah, for this one I just took it all the way off. It just makes it way easier. Originally when I first got it, I tried to slide the seat up and down with the plastic thing on, but it doesn't, yeah, it was kind of hard to adjust, so it's better just to take the whole thing off and install it. Here you can see there's a little bit of rust on the bolt. I decided just to get it off with the wire brush and WD-40, just while I got everything apart. And then here you can see, just kind of clamp it into position. You kind of just have to eye it. But yeah, ended up working pretty well. Yeah, and the seat, I think the seat's looking pretty good as well. Now that it's installed, fits pretty well. I think also suits the bike. And yeah, that's that. Alright, so with the chain I get a bit of slap here, so I'm actually going to run a chain guard. And I don't have one, but I'm just going to use an old tube. Some people think like, oh, it adds a lot of weight, but you can also get a lightweight tube, or you can like cut it in half and then put it on. What I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to wrap the whole thing just like this, and then all you need is a zip tie to tie it off. Some people don't even use a zip tie, they kind of just tuck it in. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Chuck that on, and then you can just decide where you want to start from. I started from the chainring side because I didn't want to run a zip tie near that jockey wheel. And you just, I start from underneath the chainstay, you wrap it up underneath, and then you just pull it, and then yeah, go around. As you're doing it, you can decide how much overlap you want. I did about half a tube overlap. And then when you get to the end, you want to pull it in the same direction that you're wrapping, but then cut a straight line, and then this will give you kind of like a flush end. And then yeah, just make sure you pull it tight, wrap it around. If it's too long, you can just give it a trim. I trim it so the trim end is on the back of the chainstay. And then yeah, just pull it tight, put a little zip tie on, and then yeah, pull it tight, give it a snip. And then I end up pushing just the end just a little bit over so it looks clean. And that's it. Alright, that's done. I think it's pretty cool how it's got the 24 on there. Funny enough, it's a 24 too. And I didn't go all the way in because I didn't want it to mess around with this. But if you want, you can go close in. And then here, I just went all the way on the end because if the derailleur hits, it'll hit on this instead of the frame. Alright, gotta chuck some pedals on, and these are pedals I'm gonna chuck on. These are Odyssey triple traps, kind of like old school BMX ones. I think they're pretty cool looking. I had them on my cargo bike, but I switched out to the Redshift pedals, and they've been going pretty good. So I'm gonna put these ones on. These kind of remind me of Brooklyn Machine Works type of pedals, just kind of like super aggressive, I guess, heavy duty, but yeah, should suit the bike. So it's kind of the closest I can get to getting a Brooklyn Machine Works bike. Yeah, if you don't know their bikes, take a look. It's they're pretty sick. It's a shame they don't make them anymore, but yeah, they're super cool. I think they're called the dual suspension one. I think it's called a Race Link. But yeah, super sick. Here, just installing the pedals. Yeah, not too much to it. Just a little bit of grease. Make sure it's nice and tight. And these pedals could probably do with the service and a little bit of clean, but I think they're pretty good for now. So gonna run them as is. And yeah, that's basically the last thing. yeah, the bike is pretty sick, pretty fun to ride. At the beginning, it felt a little bit twitchy because of the high front end, but once you got used to it, it's really fun. It's really easy to maneuver, pretty playful. You can pick up the front end real easy, and yeah, it's pretty light overall as well, way lighter than I imagined. Overall, I'm super stoked on it. Probably just like a great fun bike to ride around on. Let me know what you think, and if you have any questions, happy to answer them. If you made it this far, congratulations. It's not a short video by any means, but as always, thank you for all the support. Hope you liked the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!